Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Aquarian Radio. And I'm your host, Janet Lessin, with Debra DeFranco. And this is the premiere episode of Elephants in Our Rooms. And you wonder, what does that mean? So let me pull up my screen here, and I'll give you a little definition from the Wikipedia. The expression elephant in the room, or elephant in the living room, is a metaphorical idiom in English for an important or enormous topic, question, or controversial issue that is obvious or that everyone knows about, but no one mentions or wants to discuss because it makes at least some of them uncomfortable or is personally, socially, or politically embarrassing, controversial, inflammatory, or dangerous. It is based on the idea of thought that something as conspicuous as an elephant can appear to be overlooked in codified social interactions, and that the psychology of repression also operates on the macro scale. Various languages across the world have words that describe similar concepts. So I'm not going to dwell on that. I have a longer definition along with some illustrations on aquarianradio.com, where I've created today's show page. But we want to talk about this week's elephant in the room. And I'm going to pass the talking stick to Debra DeFranco. What is this week's elephant in the room, Debra?
Well, it can't be anything else except COVID, of course, right?
Right. So you sent me
and face masks.
So what?
Yeah, I sent you some articles this week about, well, last week I sent you the articles about the autopsies, right? They're finally starting to do autopsies to see what the true damage inside the body is. And then they're discovering the virus doesn't work the way a virus is supposed to work, which makes you wonder, how is this virus constructed? And now they're discovering that there's extensive brain damage, long-term brain damage, as well as stroke risk, because it affects the way your blood clots, right?
Right.
So there's a combination of, you can get one or the other, or get the double whammy and deal with both. And usually the people that I believe get both are possibly the ones that don't survive it, right?
Right.
But they're treating this like a... Pardon me?
Let me just interject one thing about that. They're also discovering that it's cumulative. So say you have one round of it and you're asymptomatic, but it creates damage in your body that you don't really know what's going on. And because this thing is very virulent, it keeps going around and keeps mutating. So you maybe get version, COVID 21 next year, right? Or you get COVID 2019 part 2 this year, right? You might catch another one. And so a lot of people die because of now you're compromised, right? So you went through it once. You don't think anything's wrong with you, but now you're compromised. The next time it comes through, it kills you. Or maybe the third time it comes through. But it eventually gets you. Yeah, it was, and I don't know where I need to save these articles, but sometimes I'm on my cell phone, but I've got to mail them to me. But go ahead, continue what you were saying.
That's wild. I hadn't read that about the disease, but it's funny you say that, because I have a friend who actually the virus has now mutated. Mm-hmm. So they now know the current version going around is more contagious than the first version that arrived from China. But it doesn't make you any sicker, right? But your chances of getting it are much higher. And they now believe it's airborne, which nobody wants to admit. The big elephant in the room this week, right?
Right.
That this thing is airborne in enclosed spaces. And it is much more contagious than anybody thought. So the government, the administration, won't even acknowledge that this thing is airborne. And they're trying to force children into school. Can you imagine what's going to happen?
Well, they'll probably get infected. They'll take it home. They'll infect other people in their family. Somebody will be get really sick, like a parent could die,
Or
a
grandparent.
A younger sibling. No one's immune. We just lost that guy that was in Hamilton. I think he was a Broadway actor, 41 years old. Well, he caught it
Nick
on, and he ended up getting complications. He's had this for like 3 months. He lost his leg.
And
a long time.
He had the blood clot issue and the brain inflammation issue. He caught both of them.
Great. So it's like Russian roulette. These young kids that go out and hang around and together in close proximity and at the bars, and they go, well, they think they're immune. We thought we were immune, right? We were going to live forever. When you're a teenager in your early 20s, you feel like you're immortal, that nothing can take you out. But now they're the ones that are in the hospital or have it, or they're spreaders. And now the hospitals are full.
Yes.
Them have no more ICU. So here's someone that has a stroke or a heart attack, or they're in an accident and they're going to lose their arm, and they have no room in the hospital. They can't get into ICU. Many people are saying that the respirators and masks are causing disease. I don't think that's true. We've been using respirators for, I don't know when it started. When did respirators? We've been using respirators all along.
They've been using those since the turn of the century, the last century.
Yeah, that's not what's killing people.
There used to be hand respirators that the nurses used to do by hand, remember?
They still put those things.
Yeah, they'll still do the manual respirators in case of an emergency for lack of anything else.
Right. Mm-hmm. Watch a bunch of doctor shows. This is how we've been treating patients since, the turn of the century, but especially since the 60s. It's pretty standard. And they've gotten a little bit better, but so let's go into these, and let's go ahead. What else do you have to say? And then I'm going to go look at the article, because I really didn't have time to pick them apart. We can go into this in greater detail.
Well, they announced today, Tulsa announced that they now have a spike that's 2 weeks since the protest and the Trump rally. And they believe there is a connection to those two events along with the spike.
Right, especially.
So now the Republicans are talking about having a convention outside, or maybe not having the convention at all. You think?
Well, it's kind of like these are a bunch of rats in the experiment. Let's go out and gather. And the protest, and I really support the protesters, but I don't support that in the middle of a pandemic, because I basically am cringing that these people are all going to get sick, and a portion of them are going to die, and so here we are. The protesters are out in close proximity, and they're yelling. Well, we know that the yelling will propel the virus, and they're not standing 10 feet apart, and it goes further than they first anticipated. Even if you are just breathing, it goes further, it lingers longer. Oh, it's just a disaster. And then of course you go and do that because the protesters were out, people go, well, we should be able to go to a rally and we're not going to wear any masks. But it affects all of us, because that makes it so our products and services and food can't be distributed and produced, and people can't get into the hospital for other things. There's my one friend wants to get prostate surgery. He's not going to get his prostate surgery. Now that can turn south and kill you too. So this is a circle of life that affects everybody. So if you're out there selfishly saying, I'm not going to wear a mask, well, you're going to be responsible for somebody dying in your chain of life. Back to you.
Well, and I think that's the missing piece of the puzzle, right? People are under the misconception that the mask is to protect you from the virus. No, the mask is to protect other people in case you have the virus. And so everyone thinks, oh, it's my right to not wear the mask, but it's not your right to endanger the life of the people around you.
Right. You don't have a right to drive without a license. You don't have a right to not wear a seatbelt. You don't have a right to go into a public place that says no smoking and smoke. There are many things that are enacted for the public health and welfare and safety. And this is not a constitutional right that you don't have to wear a mask because you're toxic. It's the same like back in the AIDS epidemic. You weren't allowed to have AIDS and knowingly have sex with someone. I forget what level.
Oh, yeah.
That was a criminal action. Well, this is criminal. You know how this works. Nobody can be ignorant now. We know how this works. It travels. It kills people. They die. It may not be someone you know, but I'm hearing people that I know that are sick or have died now. So it really is coming full circle. That was the excuse they said a couple weeks ago. Well, do you know anybody that died? Oh, yeah, I do. And that's when it hits.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know anybody that's died, but I've known several people that have gotten sick. And that's the other thing. I think if it hasn't touched people on a personal level, they're in denial about whether this thing exists because they're drinking the Trump Kool-Aid, believing that it doesn't.
And that I don't.
You've got members of the Republican Party out there preaching that this is a hoax still.
They still do that. And they are complicit. They are guilty. And on some karmic level, they got a lot of dues to pay. But I'm hoping that this gets enacted that, you must wear a mask. And it'll be, well, over here in Maui, you don't have a mask on, they can fine you. They've been letting people in, but they were quarantined, and people were just coming over and breaking their quarantine. It's like, I don't have to pay attention to that. So we've had some spreaders over here. And so now they're requiring you to take 3 tests in a row before you can even get on the plane. And it costs $150. So you have to process. But I think they're even with that, they're requiring you to come over here and quarantine for 14 days before you can go hit the beach. But even with that, the map is lit up red, not that they're Republican, but they're red with COVID. Isn't that interesting? Red equals COVID, red equals Republican. The United States map is lighting up red, and all these people are sick, and they're spreading it to everybody. And so, to me, it seems like there's some kind of death agenda out there, either that these people are suicidal, or maybe they're murderous. I can't quite figure out why. It's not the point that Trump says. It's why do all these people blindly follow?
They have politicized wearing a mask, and it should not be a political issue. So now they think it's an us versus them issue instead of let me protect the people around me issue.
Well, this is science, and science is provable and logical.
But you're talking about these are science deniers who don't believe, global warming exists.
Well, that whole thing was started by Trump and this Trumpism, to deny science. The earth is flat, and I don't know. It's just insane. It just it kills when you deny science, you deny facts. Somebody ends up dead. Some people end up dead. And I'd like to be the fly on the wall, or the ability to go to the future and hear what those people are saying about this time on Earth, because we're going to look absolutely crazy. Yeah. Well, let's see. I want to go.
Well, you know, us and Brazil have the two highest death rates, right, of all the countries in the world.
Right. And that said something because Brazil has
because
Trumponian attitude.
Yep.
Trumpism. What is this stuff that's happened? Trumpism. That it's
Trumpism.
Trumpism. Yes. Trumpism has infected the world, and then that allowed this infection to come in and kill masses of people. I'm going to go to my my website that had the stats and see where we are on it's ncov2019.live, and this was made by a 17-year-old or 18-year-old and his friend, because when this started back at the beginning, he wanted to, so this is a real-time tracker site. And there are 12,377,630 total confirmed cases. Now, we know that's not near enough because people die in their houses, and, you know, it's spreading around the world. There's a lot of places they don't report it. So I would say it's probably at least 50% more, maybe as high as double. The United States has over 3 million cases. Brazil has almost 2 million cases. India is rapidly, it's like the horse race, and India is coming around the corner, rapidly taking over. And Russia's right behind them, and Peru, Chile, and then the UK, Mexico, and Spain. And it goes on and on. But the most of the world is over 100,000 confirmed cases. So what have you heard about this is going to be coming around again? Are you there?
Well, we're still in the, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we're still in the middle of the first wave. Now, there are countries that are getting hit by the second wave, right? But this hasn't finished, the first wave hasn't finished working its way across the country. There's going to be another wave in the fall. Well, provided some of this dies out. And if not, this wave may just continue for another year. Because you've got somewhere between 10 and 25% of the population infected. Mm-hmm. Your stats, based on your testing, are showing 10% of the population. But not everybody's being tested, right? And there's a lot of people that are asymptomatic. I think the people infected is 10 times more, not just 50 or 100% more. I think it's 10 times more than what's being reflected in the numbers.
Right. Oh, I agree. I was listening, and I'm trying to find her name. Sorry, I should have grabbed that. There's a woman who wrote a book. She's brilliant. And she says that be prepared. This is the way of life. And,
yes.
And part of the reason we're having this is part of this global pollution. We have changed the planet so much that we have activated these viruses, and we were lucky. The last really highly active period was 100 years ago, the Spanish flu, but we had a population of only about 2 billion, and we're 4 times. We have 8 billion people going and
right.
And so now we have done such extreme devastation that the Arctic Circle's on fire, and we keep burning in the Brazilian rainforest, which is the lungs of the planet, and the devastation continues. And it's to the point that now it's like we've opened Pandora's box, and you're not gonna cure it with herd immunity, because this virus is not acting like what we need to get herd immunity. The antibodies wear off.
Don't stay in the body.
Huh?
The antibodies don't stay in the body. They only last for a few weeks.
Right. So they're gone. So then even if you had a vaccine, if the antibody, what is
Yes.
about it that makes the antibodies not? So even the vaccine won't work if it keeps leaving the body. So we have a real chance of wiping out humanity with this shit if we don't take it seriously. And this
Yes,
might be
absolutely.
this is the test. Do we want to survive, or are we going to be political assholes? And I have the right.
Well, we need to be ready for the next one, right? This needs to teach us what not to do.
Well, we have to learn. If we don't learn, we die. Many species have come and gone from this planet. So you adapt, you learn, or you don't make it. So, I don't know.
I want to say something.
Go ahead.
I want to say something in regard to that comment. Humans are not adapted to this planet to begin with.
Well, we know that
story.
So,
right? So we're already not adapted to this planet. So something like this could definitely take us out.
Right. Yeah, we're not really made for this planet. Yeah,
no, we're not.
If we were terraformers and we were coming in and deciding what species do we put on the planet, it would not be human beings. So we were here because of, those who are familiar with the Anunnaki story, we were here created as slaves, and then we were dummied down, and our DNA changed to shorten our life expectancy, and our immunity to diseases was removed. But despite that, this body is not the optimal body for this gravity and for the work we have to do here. We suffer from aches and pains.
Well, we have 60% of the population has problems with their back, and they believe that it's the stress of gravity on the human form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have, our metabolism operates at operates in prime condition at 67.8 degrees. And that is the average temperature of the equator of Mars.
Oh.
We sunburn, right? We have to wear sunglasses. We sunburn. We get skin cancer. If we were adapted to the planet, we wouldn't sunburn. Look at pregnancies are very painful, right?
Uh-huh.
For women, right? It's not an easy condition. And it's not easy for women to have children. That shouldn't be the case. We lost our hair only to put on clothes. Does that make any sense?
Well, it doesn't make sense, except that we were seeded to this planet and adapted to this planet, but it wasn't a good job. They didn't do a very good job.
No, not at all.
Minus.
What's that?
They got a C minus. Maybe a D.
So are they going to come back and fix their defective product?
They could very easily. It's within their. It depends who wins the war. We're in World War III. We didn't see World War III being this. We expect bombs and planes, but this is World War III, and this is the. And they did war this way in the past. They did biochemical warfare in the past. That's how we have the first level of these viruses in our system, which were buried in rainforest and under ice, but now they're being activated, because that was talked about in the Anunnaki story, that they launched, they opened Pandora's box. They launched biochemical warfare. They didn't want humanity to reach the numbers it has. So this might be all part of a planetary defense mechanism to call the population, because we're reaching critical mass and we're going to destroy the whole planet unless we do something. And
right.
So this might be the Anunnaki left behind this defense system for the planet Otherwise, once we hit the tipping point, the air becomes unbreathable and all life ends. And I had some, before COVID, I had a couple whistleblowers come on board, and they were saying they were time travelers and they went to the future. And by 2100, all life on planet Earth is gone. But the interesting side effect of COVID is we're not flying planes like we once did. And it seems like we won't be flying planes. So our leaders, who are probably Anunnaki, what do you want to call it? The kings and queens and princes and czars and all those people, they were the demigods. They were Anunnakis,
right,
that had bred with human beings, and they're the royals. So, Queen Elizabeth and all those good people. They don't really want to let go of power, but and I forget what I was saying. What was I saying? I got sidetracked. That's what happens when I get up at 5 a.m. I have no idea why I'm waking up at 5 a.m. I just do. I go, whoa, I'm awake. Anyway, what was the thing you mentioned? You said the question which I was beginning to answer. Anyway.
I was saying that you had made a comment about how we're adapted to this planet, and I said, no, we're not, right? There's way too many issues with human beings that we should have adapted by now, and we have not.
Right. So, yeah, we were adapted well enough to, we're pretty successful as a species. We may have individual pains, but we certainly are reaching, over 9 million people, or 8, I have to look at the numbers. It's 8 million. Anyway, we have a lot of people. When I was born in the 60s, there was only 3 billion, I'm talking about billion, 3 billion people. And now we're at 9 million, or approaching 9 million, or 8.5 million. I mean, it's a lot of people, right? And
I have this theory about the LGBTQ community, right?
Tell me your.
And I've told this to a few people, and people often complain about how much you're seeing homosexuality portrayed on TV. I especially hear older people and conservative people complain about that. But there's a reason for the amount of homosexuality that you're seeing in society, you're seeing on TV. It's Mother Nature's way of fixing overpopulation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mother Nature always has a way of self-correcting, right? We're now reaching critical mass in terms of the people of the number of citizens on this planet, right? What better way to stop procreation? Homosexuality.
Well, the other thing is, but even homosexuals will often produce, they adopt children, so maybe they are taking care of a part of the population that wouldn't have parenting.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but not everybody makes a good parent. Just because you're able to doesn't mean you necessarily should do it, because you may not be a very good parent. But that's another whole topic. And
I was going to say, I think most people shouldn't be parents.
My mother, I love her, but boy, she needed some classes in mothering. She wasn't a very good mother. She couldn't be bothered, really. Yeah, but she did it from social pressure, because back then you weren't a real person, a real woman, unless you had children in your body. So that's it. Now let me look at this article here. I'm going down to the potential brainwave damage linked to COVID-19.
Yes.
So there's some severe neurological complications, including inflammation, psychosis, and delirium. So I've noticed lately that people are really acting out. I mean, they're really bizarre. I get calls from my friends, and I say, look, you're stuck with each other. You've just got to learn how to be nice. I mean, there's no doing psychotherapy with them because they're screaming at each other. They're not calm enough to do psychotherapy. And I just say, you guys chose to be in, and a lot of people are still housebound. A lot of older people,
Yeah.
they don't feel safe going to the store. They're getting stuff delivered. They're ordering online. I had these people say, "Well, I've got, lung disease. I've got COPD. I can't wear a mask, right?" Well, I've got lung disease, and so I just kind of was on this thread this morning it was either LinkedIn or Facebook, and I just was really pissed off at people trying to rationalize and justify killing people. I mean, you're killing people. Really, you're going to rationalize and say, this is my pursuit of liberty. And no, people die. And so, yeah, you can wear those shields. They have a lot of shields. They have really cute hats with built-in shields. You don't have to go in the store. You can order. You can pick up curbside. And then a lot of people need jobs. You can have them deliver you meals, those young people. But if you have COPD and you go into a store where this virus can linger, we're fine where that it's like it really can linger a long time and it spreads far in short order, and you're going into a place where there's got all these people going in and out all day, so it doesn't dissipate in 10 seconds, right? You're in a box that has very limited air circulation, and so you go into a box where people have been in there, these box stores, right? You go into your Walmart, your grocery store, and there's stuff lingering in there. You don't have to go over and talk to somebody. This stuff is in the air, and so you've got COPD and you're going to go into a store that's got the virus lingering. Well, guess what? You're going to catch the disease. And if you have COPD, you have a very high chance of dying as it is. But when you add COVID to that mixture, so I think these people are kind of suicidal. What are you, suicidal? So you have a death wish, but okay, don't kill yourself, but don't take everybody else with you. Right?
It's just ignorance is what it is. Like I said, they've politicized it. They're not listening to the doctors. They're listening to Fox News and the Trump administration. And, go ahead. You're going to die or your family's going to die. You want to take that risk? Go for it.
The article says, my worry is that we have millions of people with COVID-19 now. And if in a year's time we have 10 million recovered people and those people have cognitive deficits, then that's going to affect their ability to work and their ability to go about activities of daily living. So this is we don't live in an isolated vacuum. What you do affects other people. And so we're going to have a generation of 10 million recovered people that might not be mentally all there because somebody didn't wear a mask.
Right. Well, we thought we had a mental health crisis before. Just imagine what we'll have now after this, right?
And so it said that 9 patients who had brain inflammation were diagnosed with a rare condition called acute disseminated encephalitis, ADEM, which is more usually seen in children and can be triggered by viral infections. So people are getting extreme damage to their bodies, and it's on the rise, it's on the increase. Now, you had one article you sent me about the autopsies, and I forgot to grab it for the page. Do you have that in front of you?
Oh, let me see if I've got it. Convenient. Oh, let's see. I think I emailed that to you. So okay. Let me take a look.
I'll look over. Okay. So they're running an international research project at covidbrainstudy.com where patients can sign up to complete a series of cognitive tests to see whether their brain functions have altered since getting COVID-19. So I've just seen a lot of people, I just say people are going crazy, but maybe they were asymptomatic, they caught the COVID, and they're acting weird. I mean, there is an amount of psychological stress because of the politics and because we're in lockdown and people are wanting to go out. There's that type of thing.
Right.
This level that I've seen, even in my own neighborhood here, it's like, it seems like there's something really going wrong. So they're talking about the airborne transmission that's been ongoing. That smaller particles can infect people and stay in the air for long periods of time. There's a difference between respiratory droplets that travel briefly and can be ingested versus tiny droplets called aerosols, smaller than 5 micrometers of microns, which can float around for a while. So one article I read, I'm going to start saving these articles for our shows because this COVID's going to be around for a while. But it said that they discovered that you're most likely to get infected through your nose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they've been finding more and more people are getting infected through their nose. And so, anyway, did you find that article? What did it?
No, I'm looking. I got one more email box to check. Let's see. You know what? That one might have been on Skype. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Let's see. This one was on the autopsies. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes. What were they finding with the autopsy?
Okay, autopsy.
I'm going to see if I can find it. It was from you. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I emailed it to you.
Important article on what they're finding with the autopsies. So they're asking people that have had COVID to donate blood so they can try to do the antibody techniques. But
okay. Did you find it? Because I have it. Here, I'm going to send it to you.
Go ahead. Resend it to me, but then open it
Okay, the link's at the bottom of the email. Look at the very bottom of the email trail. And the link's at the bottom of it. I just forwarded it to you.
Okay, hold on. I'm in the wrong email account. All right. You sent it to my personal, right?
I sent it to the Aquarian Janet Lessin at Aquarian Radio.
I'll go to that one. Okay.
Yep, at gmail.com. Yeah,
that's my public one. Here it is. Okay. So let's look at the article. All right. Come on, article. Where are you?
It's all the way at the bottom.
Apple News. Okay. Some of these I have trouble opening because they go to Washington.
This one's Apple. Oh no, this is the Washington Post. This is the one you couldn't do. Okay, hold on. Let's see if I can.
You'll have to read it to us.
Snap this one. Okay, I have it up.
Okay.
So what is it you want to know?
What does it say? Because I was never able to fully read it.
Okay. So this is what it says. This is great. Okay. So basically what they did is that there is an infectious disease specialist at Northwestern University, right, who started examining the genetic structure of the virus samples that were coming from the local patients, right? And what they noticed is that the virus was appearing again and again with mutations, right?
Uh-huh.
So the virus that came from China is different than the virus that ended up in New York. The mutation occurred in Europe. The virus that ended up in New York occurred from the European mutation. The virus that ended up on the West Coast, like in Seattle and California, that came from China. Now, what they're saying is there's amino acids, that this is affecting a number of amino acids that the virus affects the amino acids in the body, and that it basically short circuits the amino acids, and it causes what's called a spike protein effect. Okay. And that is a spike, the amino acids that cause the spike protein. Now, what happens is your body overcompensates, and they call it a spike attack, right? And that it starts attacking these mutations in the amino acid in the body. And it's almost as if the immune system turns on the body and it starts attacking the body. And the people that are dying are under these attacks. So there is one mutation that's on a DNA variant called D614G. And that is the mutation that's causing the most serious side effects of the virus.
Right. And now, is there anything else in there that's important to share?
This mutation, you know, everyone started seeing downward trends, right? March and April, right? In other parts of the world. Right. We hadn't quite gotten hit yet. That's just as we were getting hit, right? So this mutation has now taken over. The original virus has less than 5% of the people affected in this country. The mutated virus is 95% of the people that are now infected are affected by the mutated virus. So that the question I ask is, well, when they were working on the vaccine, what version of the virus were they using when they created the vaccine? And if it's now mutated, how does that affect the vaccine? Now, I know someone who's been infected with both of these mutations and got sick both times. And they have now taken bone marrow from them. They're doing some kind of investigation. And they won't tell them the truth. They may actually even made them sign an NDA.
Right.
And I don't think they were honest with this person about what was going on. But anyways, there's people out there that have been infected with both versions of this virus. But again, the antibodies don't last very long. So how do you create a virus when there's no antibody stability?
Right.
I mean, how do you create a vaccine when there's no antibody stability?
So that's not going to be the answer. The vaccine is not going to be the answer. So yeah, we're in deep kimchi. I'm not sure what the answer is, but we really need a miracle. We need the ETs. We need God.
Is that the answer? Is that how we stop this? We call the ETs down and ask for their help?
ET, phone home, phone us here, right? Our home. Yeah. Oh God. So now I have, excuse me, the Daily Cause, KOS. I read it all the time, and there's a whole list of articles here. What would you like to focus on next? We're still looking at the elephant in the room.
Well, I picked COVID, so you pick the next topic.
Well, we're looking at a stimulus check. And so we've got the election coming in November, and everything gets politicized. So masks have been politicized. And now what's politicized is this relief for Americans that are so screwed by this COVID, which was allowed, this was intentional. I think, intentions are made manifest by the results. So Trump intended this virus to go viral. I talked to George Green, who was website nohoax.com, and he was part of the insider Illuminati powers that be meetings back in the 60s and 70s. And he talked about the depopulation bomb, that they had this agenda to take the world's population down to some ridiculously low number, but, reducing is reducing, and they're going to kill off a lot of people. 20 million people died during the last one, really big one, the Spanish flu, which really had nothing to do with Spain, but they gave it that name for some reason. And so, 20 million people died then. So we have...
It's because the soldiers that came out of the Spanish War are the ones that infected everybody. That's why.
That's why they call it. Okay. So here we are 100 years later, and we have 4 times the population, but we have a quicker way to spread it. Back then it was like slow boat to China, and, we didn't have the public transportation like we have now. So we have the virus in every nook and cranny of this planet. Poor indigenous peoples down in Brazil, you would think they would be protected, but no, it's everywhere. Even in the jungle. So now we have people who've lost their jobs because Trump kept saying you don't need to wear a mask. He's still saying you don't need to wear a mask. He never wore a mask. You can't do as I say, but not as I do. You, as a world leader, you need to make an example and wear a freaking mask and have all your people wear a mask. So he's sending out these mixed messages, and he's saying all these racial things and horrendous things at every opportunity. He's basically, if you go back to the birther movement, Trump started this whole modern day racism. We were starting to get over it. I'm 66, so I witnessed, Martin Luther King, and I was a functioning teenager when King was murdered, and I witnessed the first race riots, they called it back then. Everybody was very upset that they lost Dr. King. And so this modern birther movement fired up people with racism to, I guess he wanted to prevent Obama from getting elected, but if he was elected from the moment he got into office, they weren't letting him do anything. Anyway, so here we are. We had 8 years of Obama, and I think the Obamas were kind of glad to get out of there. We're glad we got out of here alive because, the United States has a history of presidents. Because I don't know if you remember, but he disappeared for a while. It was like he went skiing and boating and golfing, doing all that thing. He was trying to process the 8 years. I know Michelle was like, "Oh, we're out of here, yeah." So anyway, here we are. I have PTSD. I'm so traumatized by Trump and all that he's done from the moment one. All this stuff, the kids at the border. I have a heart. I care. So many people are sociopathic, bordering on psychopathic. I think that when you don't wear a mask, people can die. That's a form of psychopathography.
Sociopathy.
Sociopath. Yeah. But, psychopath is you don't care if people die. That's where you go from socio to psycho, is involving
right
dying. So people are psychopaths. It's like, what? You don't care? No, I don't care if they die. We all gotta die somehow. Don't get back to some other flu. Yeah, we've had flus all along, but people weren't, nothing like today. Nothing. It's so virulent. It's so, what do you call it? Virulent.
Right.
All right. So I'm ranting, but here's what we were talking about was these checks, and we got one round of checks. And the last bill was $2 trillion, the first one to bail out humanity. And they gave it to all these businesses. And so it looks like when they made that first bailout, about $1 trillion of it went to these businesses, like the plane industry, airplane.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to be flying them. And why were they doing that? And somebody was really just lining people's pockets with cash. So apparently some people in Congress and in government, senators, took these programs, money from these programs, which were supposed to go in large to help out small businesses. So small businesses money. The stimulus checks didn't make it to millions and millions of people. It was so convoluted. And now we have another round that's supposed to come out. And don't quote me, people, but it looks like August 8th. But what they're trying to do is just give it to people who would make $40,000 or less, $80,000 if you're a couple. So that knocks a lot of people. Everybody's affected, There's very few people that are millionaires to the level where it's not affecting them. Everybody's affected. Services, food, distribution, and yeah, a rich person's better off. I was trying to find Windex, and I went online, and it was like $22 for some Windex. Okay, I think we'll figure out something else.
Use vinegar in newspapers.
Yeah, vinegar and newspapers. Although I don't buy newspapers anymore because they're just a mess.
Well, you get junk ads, don't you? That's newspaper print.
A little bit.
Do you get junk mail?
I've eliminated most of my mail. I have everything. Computers go down, I'm screwed. But anyway, I don't like all that. I live in the jungle, and when you have paper around, it gets moldy, right? So I just try to limit paper coming in my house. And then it has to just go down the mountain again, and I got to pay to haul it away. So it's like work to go get it and work to go take it out of here. So when you live in a jungle and you've got to do the extra steps to bring things in and out, you try to minimize waste coming in. So, all right, I talked enough. What do you want to talk about? So, yes, we might get a stimulus. The Republicans are trying to give as little as possible. They want to do it as close to the election so people go, oh, look at our great president. He gave us money. And, it's just bullshit because they should have been giving it all along. It should have been, I'm going to should. It should have been like Andrew Yang was saying with the basic minimum income. We're all screwed. We're not making the money we used to. We still have the same bills. We still have, our kids to feed. We still have us to feed. We still have our pets to feed, that's just basic things. And so we all got screwed over this COVID virus. So please wear your mask because it really keeps screwing us over by you not wearing your mask. So stop being selfish, stop being cruel, and wear your mask. Okay, back to you, Debra.
Well, based on what they're saying about the stimulus payments now, I probably won't get any. I probably won't qualify because they base it on how much money I made last year, which was a lot more money than I was making this year. But if they base it on what I made this year, I might qualify, but $1,200 a person isn't enough to make a difference. What made the difference is the extra $600 a week that they gave people who are unemployed. People were making as much, if not more, than what they were making. And I don't believe anybody should make more than what they were making at that job. But they had to get money out quickly, and the formula they used, that's how they came up with the $600. But I truly believe that $600 extra a month, extra a week to all the unemployed people is what has prevented this country from going into a depression, right? We're not just in a recession. There's a possibility we could be headed for a depression if we can't open this country back up. But we can't open this country back up until we get these numbers down. New York State, where I live, needs to be an example of how to do this because we have very, very few new cases. And we're not even still fully open, but we're functioning. Like most of our restaurants are all doing takeout business, right? They've just gone to the takeout model versus walk-ins. We had a lot of the restaurants around here already provided delivery, but Grubhub and some of the other ones that are providing restaurant deliveries. But if something doesn't happen with those social media apps, they may put the restaurants out of business. So we got to be careful that this thing doesn't snowball, right? And make the economics worse. So hopefully Congress will extend that $600 a week. I don't think it'll be that big, but I think there'll be some form of it.
To end on July 31st, so you're at the end of that.
Right, it's supposed to end, but they're talking about doing an extension. And at first, the Republicans were completely against it, but now more of them are buying in. And instead of it being $600 a week, it'll be anywhere from $200 to $450, and it'll be tied to the unemployment rate in your state.
Well, we'll see. The last I heard, I kind of go to the different stimulus sites, and there's these people that report left and right. So there's several different packages, but They may not even vote on it until the 8th of August.
Yeah, they're not coming back until the first week of August, so they're not going to vote on it before then.
So you're gonna, those people out there getting that $600 a week, that'll probably end on the 31st. That'll be somewhere in there. Will be your last check, and they haven't even voted it. They have to hash it out. They're going to go back and forth and argue because they like to argue. They can't agree on anything. Trump wants to go into our income taxes and slash those by giving people breaks on their income, the taxes they pay, right? So they'll get more income but less taxes. But that's what's supposed.
How do you support the country with no income taxes?
You have no income, right? So that's not going to really work. The best thing to do is to get money into the public because they're not going to sit on it. They're going to spend it. They need it to live off of. With the people that got $600 a week extra, they were spending it. They had to, because everything's gone up. Our prices of food's gone up 20%, and there's less and less products, so you have to buy what's left. And those prices, it's all supply and demand, and what's left goes up. The only thing that went down was gas, but even that is kind of on the rise back up, but it shouldn't go to the level it was before. Here's an article I just got. Now, I worked at Penn State University. Uh-oh, are you there? Uh-oh, hold on. Are you back? Did you get bounced? Are you back, Debra? Hello? Okay, so while we're waiting for Debra, I think she's coming back in. So I used to work at Penn State University, and I lived at State College, and I also attended classes. So a 21-year-old Penn State student has died from complications related to COVID-19, and the university is now working to track down those who had contact with the student. His name was Juan Garcia. He was living off campus when he got sick. Okay, let me hold on 1 second while I get... you're back.
Can you hear me? Sorry. I got kicked out. Yes. Okay.
Oh, darn. Anyway, this young man at Penn State University, I lived there for about 5 years in my second marriage before I came to Hawaii. So he caught COVID-19 on June 20th, and he died 10 days later, and he's only 21 years old. So you young kids out there, you're not immune. And so this is their first death anyway, so that's sad. So it was Juan Garcia.
They're finding actually the young people are getting hit by the brain issues and the strokes more than the older people. That's what's been so shocking.
Right. Well, and also, why were people saying, well, it's just the old people dying. This is a boomer remover. I mean, how cruel. You're okay with grandma and grandpa dying or mom and dad dying? It's like, what are you waiting for, the inheritance or something? Oh. So, very strange world. Alrighty, back to you. So, my condolences to the people, Juan Garcia's family.
Can we talk about Trump's niece's book is out?
Yeah. Let's go see what's new on Trump's niece's book. I pre-ordered it. It hasn't come yet. What do you know about?
Well, I know just what I've read in the news of the things that they've said, that he cheated his way all through school, which we all knew, just couldn't prove because he threatened to sue anybody that released his records. Had somebody sit for his SAT, he didn't even take it, which can explain why he can't spell for shit. So, it explains why he's so stupid and he knows nothing about anything.
I do not understand where we got into thinking that it was okay to elect these movie stars and stuff. I think maybe Reagan was somewhat okay. He did have a run as governor. Um, but, he was an actor. He made Bedtime for Bonzo, right? So he's not even like an A-list actor. He's a, B-list actor.
B-list actors, yeah.
And he becomes president of the United States. But, when you track it back, that's when they started this trickle-down economy, which I think there's somebody behind the puppets pulling the strings. Because some of these concepts are, really, they have foresight. It destroyed the middle class, the trickle-down economy. And I bought it for a while. I was young. I was impressionable. Oh, yeah, so what? No, it doesn't trickle down. But think about it in hindsight. Hey, give all the money to the rich people, and we will trickle it down to you in your pockets. No, we've had a huge problem.
You'll starve us out before you'll do that.
We've had it all along. They said things were good after World War II. No, my dad did not make enough to support a family of 3 children and a wife. We were always having to struggle. My father never bought a new car his entire life. He never bought a house. The house we lived in, my mother got from her mother when her mother died. And she got it from her father when he died. So he wasn't making a livable income. You should be able to buy a car to run your children around. And my dad, all he could afford was a $200 junker, and then he'd get another $200 junker. And this was the 1960s. And, we would get like, I liked Oreos. So my dad would buy me a bag of Oreos on payday. He'd say, you have to stretch it 2 weeks. I literally would stretch food. And my mother would put the food on the plate, so we never had second. So, and I'm sure that we didn't think we were poor. We just thought that's normal. But that was not a livable wage. He was a postal worker. That was not a livable wage. And so this has been going on for years and years and years. So we thought we were middle class, but no, we were poor. Later I met the middle class. I went, oh, that's middle class. No, we didn't even, begin to meet those standards. So we have a problem here because there's more than enough money to go around for everybody in the planet. We've got billionaires, now trillionaires. Call this what you like, but I don't think that we have any business having billionaires and trillionaires on the planet when people are starving and they don't even have their basic minimal needs met. Why do we keep making babies? Go forth, be fruitful, and multiply. Well, enough is enough. And why are we making babies when you can't even feed them? It's just kind of crazy. This is a level 0 civilization, and it's always been crazy with wars and this whole system of a huge impoverished class. It's a caste class system. I remember us talking down about in India they have a caste class system. Well, we have one here, duh. So this illusion that we're so, the best country in the planet, it's like, oh, this is the best we can do as a planet. We really need to rethink this. I found Mary Trump's book. But do you have anything to say about what I just said?
You went off on a tangent there for a minute.
Sorry, I do.
Well, even the billionaires feel like they should be taxed, that they're being taxed a ridiculously low amount. They're willing to pay more. It's just the politics aren't there. The political strength isn't there to tax more. You're going to have to when this is all over with. We've run up this massive deficit. It's got to be paid back. So how's that going to happen, right?
You know what they did to finance the $2 trillion bailout for humanity with the first stimulus?
What'd they do?
They printed 2 coins equal to $1 trillion each. They weren't going to print out all the paper money to back it. They just made 2 coins. They're about the size of a quarter. And they put them in the vault. So there's 2 $1 trillion coins on the planet.
Really? That's how they did it?
Isn't that funny? All right.
Like, that's going to work.
I guess
Well,
it does.
maybe the whole concept of money will just blow up through all this, right? Right? We've got, it was like the gentleman we had on your radio show.
Yeah.
On RR, right?
Yeah.
I loved his concept, right? About social dollars, that it's a dual currency, right? And it's about how much you give back to society. What's your contribution to society, right?
Yeah, I think people,
and then
people won't work. I think people like to work when it's not slavery.
Yeah.
We like to do things. What can
yes,
I do
absolutely
to contribute to society? Because the reward is that you feel good about yourself. You can help yourself and others get their needs met, and you can walk through life with a purpose. I certainly wouldn't want to spend my whole life sitting watching TV, which I'm doing now because I'm sitting here with COVID, but I do radio shows. See, I work. I do radio shows. I do social media. I've written a couple books,
yes.
I liked his concept. I still got a little bit bogged down, like because I'm so programmed around money. Like, how do we get these billionaires off of money, right, and into another system? I don't know. We'll be exploring that.
Well, that's why he said it's a dual currency system. You're not competing with the existing currencies. You're adding an additional currency. That's how you get the buy-in from people, right? You're not making their existing system go away. They're not losing any money. This doesn't cost them a dime. This is about sharing overcapacity and existing resources so that everybody gets something, and that there's not the haves and have-nots.
Right. So everything is a resource. So that we were talking about on that show about how you could have, you have an extra room in your house, you can rent it. The problem is that things get legislated because of the lobby. So over here in Hawaii, people were renting their spare room to tourists, and everyone was happy because tourists had room, but the hotel lobby, that was cutting into their income. So they got legislation passed that made it, you had to have all these permits. When I came to Hawaii, I came from Pennsylvania, and every mom and pop that wanted to, rent out a room for tourists, they called them bed and breakfast, right? And they had a big book of all the bed and breakfasts in the United States that you could. It was a book back then because that was in the 90s, but now all that could be put onto a computer system, which is now Airbnb and other systems like that, and people make extra money. But as soon as it's a good deal like that, like Uber and everything, the powers that be, the ones that don't like us cutting into their income, they find ways to legislate it to the point where it's no longer doable. So I can't do a bed and breakfast without permits. It has to be approved by the neighbors. That never happens. By the time you're done, you pay $10,000 or $20,000 for a permit, and it only lasts 2 years, and you're not going to make the money back. Yeah.
Right.
So I like his ideas. I think we need a whole change in attitude, and that attitude is to care about people. And we keep electing these sociopaths, psychopaths. And I think that we need to have a standard emotional intelligence, IQ, emotional intelligence, examination physically and mentally by a team, not just the president's family doctor. He's biased, right? You need to have people that come in and evaluate, and they need to be. I would like to see it go down to like a 4-year term. That's it, because then we wouldn't waste all this time with the next election, right? It's just like, you're done.
Yeah.
You're out, next, and keep getting some new blood in here, and then people who want to run again, you got to go back at the end of the line, right? You're out for at least maybe 8 years or something. Then maybe you can try again, but you got to stop having these. This is basically a monarchy. This is no different than a monarchy. Our founding fathers, all they knew was monarchies. They fought against the king, right? Up until the time we really didn't have models of democracy. It was a new concept, and they didn't get it right. No, they didn't. It was not all men are created equal. I mean, what about women? We weren't even in there, but it was only the people who had money. They were created equal to the other people that had money, and everybody else came over as indentured servants and slaves. You know, I think part of my ancestors escaped the potato famine, and how did they come in? They were indentured servants. My ancestors were in the Virginia colony, and I was watching it was the 1600s, right? The Virginia colony, and they were indentured servants. They had to work off the fee to transport them over to the United States. So their first 5 years or something, they were working off the cost of getting themselves and their family over to the Americas. So this has not been a good system ever. And it's not the best that we can do. Humanity can do a lot better. That's my idea. Okay. What do you have to say? Don't let me monopolize the conversation.
So I just was bringing CNN up, and the headline was how America botched its reopening.
Oh.
But no. So Trump's book. So I don't know. I don't know if anything else. I don't know if they're really going to be able to tell us anything that we don't already know about them, right?
Uh-huh.
What more can she? We can figure out how this sociopath came to be, right? But did you see the Supreme Court ruling about his taxes today?
Yeah, tell us about that. Do you have an article?
No, I don't have an article in front of me, but the Supreme Court ruled that the state of New York grand jury system does have access to his tax returns. However, Congress does not, right?
Weird.
So no, not really, because what's going on in New York against Trump is a criminal investigation, right? Good. Because they cheated on their taxes.
Uh-huh.
So now that he can see the tax returns, that investigation can continue. But what the Supreme Court did say is you are not above the law. You know, Trump's claim was he can't be investigated while he is president. And the Supreme Court said nobody's above the law, and everyone has the right to the evidence in this case, and the public has the right to the evidence in this case, and you don't have the right to hide it. So I think this is 3 times in the last 2 weeks that the Supreme Court has ruled against Trump or the Trump administration. And because it was dominated by conservative judges, you know, we had that conversation the other day. I said, don't think just because a judge is conservative, he's always going to rule in a conservative manner. And I think the last 3 weeks, the Supreme Court rulings is proof positive. Don't panic about conservative judges. There's always appellate courts. There's always things that can go on, right? And the Supreme Court, you never know how a judge on the Supreme Court will rule. And look what's happened, right? So now New York State is intent on putting the president in jail.
That's why he won't leave. He's going to create a World War III or some kind of where the elections aren't going to be held, or if the elections are held.
Yeah.
He's already said this. You know, he said I could kill somebody in the middle of the street where the Trump Tower is. He's already said that there's a little catch in the law that if there's an emergency, I don't have to step down. So,
well, guess what? What? He's supporting the Russians and the bounty on the U.S. soldiers. So if you don't want to step down, guess who helps keep you in office? And guess who ain't going to help you when that time comes?
I sure hope so. But, you know, there's something going on with Putin. Putin declared himself president until, 38 or
36.
36, right. So Trump's got that little idea. I'm going to be president till I'm 2036 too. Not
going to happen. You thought the BLM protests were big? Let Trump try to kill the election or refuse to leave. You will have this entire country march in the streets demanding that this man be removed.
Well, I hope that they don't back him. But we don't know. The military is a wild card. I don't know who really is running this show. We don't really know. But if you watch the movie called The Family, it was a 5-part documentary on Netflix. There's 2 movies called The Family. It's not about the Australian family, but it's about the prayer breakfast, the breakfast prayer, and how that came about. And basically, it started to dissolve the separation of church and state. And Eisenhower protested, because why are we going to have a breakfast prayer? We're supposed to have separation of church and state. But Phyllis Schlafly and when the Equal Rights Amendment was coming down, I really highly recommend Mrs. America. Part 1 just was on either Hulu or Netflix, I forget which one. But it shows the history of how we came to this point where the separation of church and state and the religious right, they appointed, and you can see where they appointed Trump. They've got their hands on him, and they're all praying for him because he's the.
Oh, wasn't that hilarious?
And he's going to come and so he's doing whoever votes for him. So he's been following what the religious right wants, and he has attacked our abortion rate. He doesn't care about that shit. All he wants is votes, right?
No, he doesn't. He could care less.
He could care less about any real politics. It's all about him getting in power and staying in power. So once he wins, he's doing a lot of things to get to this point of winning. But once he wins, and it's going to really take. It's even beyond the back of Congress, because we had the way to get rid of him, but that didn't work. We weren't able to impeach and remove. It was just a bunch of movements that weren't effective. We couldn't even get the.
Well, guess what? Even if he wins, if the Democrats get control of the Senate, they can go back and charge him. He wasn't exonerated.
No,
there just wasn't enough evidence to convict him.
Well, he's trying to remove the post office so we can't vote. He wants the pandemic so people won't go out and vote. And so with the Republicans always win when there's less people voting. And he's trying to kill off people so they can't vote. Dead people can't vote. So, if he has this very small turnout, he's got a much bigger chance of stealing the election once again. And then another great show to watch to understand how they infiltrate our computer systems, and they put these stories that end up getting Trump elected, how he won the 2016 election, how Russia interfered with their algorithms and their bots, and it's called The Good Fight. It's a sequel to The Good Wife. Very good show. I binge watched that. So, Mary Trump wrote her book. This is Donald J. Trump's, in his revelatory, authoritative portrait of Donald J. Trump and a toxic family that made him. Mary L. Trump, a trained clinical psychologist and Donald's only niece, shines a bright light on the dark history of their family in order to explain how her uncle became the man who now threatens the world's health, economic security, and social fabric. And it's called Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. And it's coming out July 14th, and I pre-ordered it. But yes, I'm a counselor, and I work with my husband, and we do psychological processes with people to help them unravel their family of origin and cultural conditioning and religious programming. So what makes a sociopath psychopath? It turns into a psychopath. And so that would be a good future show. How? And so I had another guest on, and he said, is it nurture, is it nature? He said that the psychopath is not something genetic, it's from the family. So, and even Howard Stern said to Trump, it's on a YouTube, he said, Donald, if you were to go do your family of origin work, you might have a real relationship with your daughter, with your children. Because I had no relationship with my children. I finally did my therapy. I went in and uncovered what made me like I am, because Howard Stern was definitely a sociopath. Come on, people, don't call me now. I'm on a show. Stop it. Trying to turn it off. Okay. And I can't wait. I want to read it. But we have to learn, how did somebody end up being a suicide bomber, or not wearing a mask, or become a Karen? A Karen is someone that goes and calls the police on somebody because they're black, and they try to get them arrested or try to get them killed, because oftentimes the police come in force, and we've seen dozens and dozens of videos where they take somebody down and they literally kill them, end up shooting them in the back or smothering them to death. So it's horrendous what's going on now. But I wonder how long it's been going on. It just came to light now, but it'd be interesting if someone would do an investigation of all these cases. Oh, I have one more idea, and then I'll pass it back to you. You know how they're videotaping all these Karens that are just acting out and they're having hissy fits, and so
yeah,
you see somebody in the store, and they're not wearing a mask. Take their picture. Just take their picture. Make them feel uncomfortable for not wearing the mask. You don't have to. Well, I guess some people get approached by the person wearing no mask. But I'm going to create a page on somewhere, Facebook or something. People who refuse to wear masks in stores, and something like that. Some kind of social action to get these people to start wearing a mask. Social pressure works all the time. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Anyway, back to you.
Well, we have about 10 minutes before we wrap it up. What should our final conversation be about?
Okay. Well, I think we're free flowing here. We don't have to do exactly 2 hours. Is it 2 hours already?
We got to do something funny. We got to do something fun and funny as our last topic of the night.
Okay. What did you line up something funny? It was so serious. I'm so sorry. We just serious.
Did I line up something funny? Let me see.
Funny.
Something funny. Let's see if I can pick up a funny headline real quick. Funny. Let's see what we got.
Funny. What's funny?
I read the Daily Cost too. I like them. They have some great articles.
Well, let me go back and look at that.
Let's see. Something funny.
Okay, let me pull up Daily Cause. Okay, bear with us. We're going to end with something funny. We have to be more prepared with something funny. Yeah, because we get into
I know, huh?
Stuff. But, there's other perspectives besides Trump. I just want you to know that, world. He's not the only one that has a perspective on all this stuff. There's all these people. Okay, so right-wingers who praise Sweden's response to COVID-19 are looking pretty stupid now. Okay, so that's an article.
Oh, I don't have anything funny, but there was a great archaeological article that came out today that said Native Americans came into contact with the Polynesians over 800 years ago.
How did they figure that out? I mean, we know that, but how did they?
They crossed the seas from North America to the Polynesian islands. That there was contact. They now have archaeological proof that contact occurred at least 800 years ago, if not longer than that.
Right, and the Anunnaki have stories that they had a global society and they were traveling everywhere. That's why you have the Olmecs, which were, had the black features. They were in South America.
I have a question for you about that, because you know so much about the Anunnaki. Why was the Native American culture or the indigenous culture across the world very different from the culture that came out of Europe, right? why was the Anglo culture so different than the indigenous culture if we all came from the same people?
Well, the indigenous culture were the original hybrid Anunnakis that they had created for a slave race. And
the indigenous cultures were.
Well, the first generation said, I don't want to be bossed around. So they went out into the forest, and they went native. They went, they said, no, we're not working for you. So they had to do a second hybridization program where they basically genetically altered us so we would be more subservient. So the second round worked. They had to be smart enough to do things, but not so bold that they would just, disobey everything. So they kind of let the indigenous cultures go wild, but they were very psychic and connected to the earth. So they are more advanced. That's why we have, but now there's been such a crossbreeding of everything. So it's not that you're Native American or Native indigenous cultures of some place and that you're going to be more spiritual and this and that. But back then there was kind of a division. These people are more spiritual and these people are, more basic and able to,
Well, they lived a more balanced life, did they not? They lived in harmony with the earth.
Yeah, there was a great book.
Correct.
Books about the indigenous peoples I forget the name of the book. I just loved it. It was out in the 80s about a walkabout that this white woman went to the Australian Aborigines and how they would communicate with the animals telepathically, and somebody would come and volunteer. Mutant Message Down Under, that's what it was called. Boy, it was in my long-term memory. So so anyway, they dummied us down, they shortened our longevity, they've subjected us to wars, which, trauma, post-PTSD trauma, abuse, all those things make you not as smart as you could be, right? Because you're having the base shock or survival mode, and it's all this has been interfering in our ability to progress as a species, to be constantly in survival mode. That if we figured it out, we probably would, there's a saying, the pitchforks are coming, so we probably would take all the kings and queens and czars and the royals, and we would lock them up or take their heads off, like the czars. The czars was a revolution. And then if you watch like The Crown and Victoria, they were always afraid of being usurped, and a lot of the royals got killed. When the common people rise up, they tend to take out some of the royals. So that's why Elizabeth is so cautious, and she wants everything to be done just proper, and a lot of social programs and interacting with people. And I don't know how much of it's authentic or part of it's they're really truly altruistic. But there's a series by Gerard Haridas or something, and he says that all these entrepreneurs are just doing it to pacify the people, but they're really not altruistic. They're just watching out for their own backs so they don't get scabbed or toppled from power. Because the only way the uber rich and the royals and all them stay in power is because we're supporting them. Because Zuckerberg couldn't have gotten rich without us. All these people are rich because they're riding on our free labor, and they get us to buy their stuff. So I guess the ultimate way to overthrow the royals and the power elite and to balance things is to just stop buying all the crap, So less materialism.
Okay, that you're the first person that explained those two differences in the peoples to me, and that makes sense.
Good. I'm glad I made sense. Do you have any final words before I figure out how to turn this off? I have to figure out how to turn it off.
No. Just it's been a good show, and hopefully we'll have many more.
Yes, we're going to be doing this every week. Now they will end this, it'll process, and then I will upload it. I'll send you the link, and you can upload it to your social networks. So I want to thank everybody for coming on the Aquarian Radio Network to our new show, Elephants in Our Rooms. If anybody wants to be a guest or has any topics, ideas, suggestions, please be kind, be nice. Write to us at Aquarian Radio, AQUARIAN radio at gmail.com. Debra, final words to you, and then I'll say.
Final words to me.
Yes.
Be kind. Wear your mask.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you very much. Much love and blessings, and aloha.